The Extension of Government Leases Bill, formulated by the government, was passed by the Legislative Council and came into operation on the 5th of July. The simplified extension arrangement manifests the solid safeguards for the long-term prosperity and stability of Hong Kong under the steadfast and successful implementation of one country, two systems. The government's clear policy stance on lease extension gives assurance to property owners and investors. The simplified arrangement provides convenience for the public and businesses. This new piece of legislation creates more favourable conditions for the Hong Kong SAR Government to pursue economic growth and development and improve people's livelihood. I have invited colleagues from the Development Bureau to introduce this important legislation. I have also invited Legislative Council members and representatives of the business, banking and surveying sectors and property owners to share their views.
As land leases underpin land and property, a clear lease extension arrangement is very important for people's livelihood, business operations, and the economic development of Hong Kong.
A lease is a contract between the government and the owner, which sets out the terms and conditions for using the land. The Hong Kong SAR Government promulgated a clear land policy in July 1997. Leases for residential, commercial and industrial uses are generally extended by the government for a term of 50 years without payment of an additional premium, but an annual rent equivalent to 3% of the prevailing rateable value of the property shall be charged. The newly enacted Extension of Government Leases Ordinance has simplified the means of lease extension. The Director of Lands will extend leases by publishing an extension notice 6 years before the expiry of each batch of leases. Owners no longer need to sign a new lease with the government as in the past, and the encumbrances, interest and rights, such as mortgages under the original lease, will be carried forward. The new ordinance can handle the significant number of leases expiring from 2025 onwards in an efficient and orderly manner. On the commencement date of the ordinance, which is the 5th of July 2024, the Land Department already published the first extension notice, covering leases expiring between that date and the end of 2030, amounting to leases of 376 lots in total, all of which are extended.
The government has reiterated in the course of the scrutiny of the bill that the ordinance does not change the July 1997 land policy, which has all along been upheld by the government, nor the sole discretion of the government in extending a lease. Commercial, residential, and industrial leases will generally be extended upon expiry for 50 years, without payment of an additional premium, but annual rent shall be charged. This brings reassurance to both the business sector and the public. As the chairman of the Bills Committee, I am pleased to see the smooth passage of the ordinance by the Legislative Council. The Bills Committee held a total of 7 meetings with the government, and members of the Bills Committee raised numerous constructive suggestions on the bill, many of which were adopted by the government. According to government information, leases of around 300,000 lots will expire on the day of the 30th June 2047, involving over 1.5 million owners. If lease extension were to be handled under the conventional mechanism, the government would need to sign a new lease individually with each and every owner through contractual means, requiring massive manpower resources. It is therefore necessary to enact a new piece of legislation for handling the extension of general-purpose leases in a comprehensive manner.
The ordinance is the most convenient way to handle lease extension. Property owners whose leases are extended do not have to sign any new documents, and the government can effect lease extension by way of gazettal in the future by virtue of this legislation. It is a good and facilitating policy for the public. May I also highlight that the government officials of the Development Bureau have paid heed to members' views throughout the scrutiny of the bill and taken on board various suggestions and proposed amendments to the bill, showing great collaboration between the members and the government.
I welcome the enactment of the Extension of Government Leases Ordinance, which provides a simple and orderly way for extending leases in batches, obviating the need for owners to undergo cumbersome procedures of executing lease documents with the government individually.
I want to really congratulate the Development Bureau for putting in place this important piece of legislation. It signifies that the government's commitment to the 1997 land policy, which has provided a solid foundation for Hong Kong to develop and prosper. The new ordinance allows land leases to be extended by the government's publication of Gazette notices without requiring owners to sign any contract documents with the government or perform any other formalities. It showcases the government's effort to cut red tape and bring convenience to the public and enterprises. This supportive mindset of the government is exactly what we need for businesses to flourish and new investors to come. And we all know Hong Kong really needs new investors at the moment. So I really want to congratulate the government on a job very well done.
The Hong Kong Association of Banks is delighted to learn of the passage of the ordinance, which came into operation on the 5th of July 2024. To the banking sector, a clear and certain lease extension arrangement is particularly important for mortgage business management. We are pleased to know that the government has addressed the banking sector's views and advanced the publication of the extension notice to 6 years before lease expiry, positively responding to the stakeholders' appeal for earlier certainty on lease extension. We note that the ordinance clearly provides for the encumbrances and rights under the original lease to be carried forward, doing away with the complex procedures for owners to negotiate with banks for transferring the mortgage from the original lease to the new lease, thus greatly reducing the hassle for both the banks and the owners. The Hong Kong Institute of Surveyors welcomes the ordinance, noting that it clearly spells out the standard clauses for lease extension, namely extension for a term of 50 years without payment of an additional premium, but an annual rent shall be charged upon the extension. Owners do not need to worry that their property valuation would be affected by the lease term. The introduction of the ordinance not only provides assurance for people to live and work, but also enhances the confidence of the commercial, industrial, investment, and banking sectors in understanding the continuity and certainty of the land policy of Hong Kong.
The owners no longer need to sign any documents with the government under the new extension mechanism, with mortgages, deed of mutual covenant, owners' corporation, and owners' committee being carried forward without being affected. This is wonderful news. I believe most of the owners, just like me, will be glad and relieved as we no longer need to take any action for lease extension to take effect.
The Development Bureau is grateful for the wide support from all sectors of the community for the new order. We will continue to keep up our efforts on promotion and education. We hope to let more people know about the new mechanism and the convenience that it brings to the public and businesses.